And welcome to Flat Earth United. Joining me this afternoon is YouTuber Good Times for All, otherwise known as Zachary Zabala. How you doing, Zach?
Good, Nathan. How you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Can't complain. It's still just about afternoon here, believe it or not. This is probably the earliest show for me ever. 11 a.m. there and 5 p.m. here is considered early in Flat Earth United terms. So I'm chuffed. I'll have an afternoon to deal with after we're finished. So I'm pleased.
All right.
You're typically an early riser. You've been up since 5, haven't you?
Oh yeah, every day. That's kind of well, I have the dogs on that schedule, so with them on that schedule now, I don't really have a option of getting up any later than that. When it's time to go to the bathroom, it's time to go to the bathroom. But yeah, I've been an early riser for at least, well, since I started waking up and learning. I like to wake up with the sun.
I'm gonna get straight into it. Enough chit chat
All
because
right.
you've done some absolutely astonishing experiments, and yeah, I want you to tell the audience all about them, how you've started to look at this. But before we do, typical Flat Earth United question: how did you find out the Earth is flat?
Oh, well, I was watching well, I didn't it took me about 3 or 4 months to actually click on the video. Um I was watching Crow Triple Seven about his lunar wave, and because I mean I was really into NASA and satellites and SETI and SOHO and LASCO, and I used to know all the satellites and go look at the pages, and I was ready for Nibiru and Elenin and all this stuff coming. I was really into that stuff. And I mean, I knew we never went to the moon, but I always thought the ISS was up there. I never questioned any of that stuff. I thought the moon was just something to do with the Russians and blah, blah, blah. But when Crow started talking about the moon being a hologram and this and that, it opened my mind up a little bit to actually allow flat Earth to seep in. But like I said, it took me 4 months after that. It was just so many people saying, you have to look into this. You have to look into this on the comment sections. Finally, I was like, I'm going to just go look at this and tell these people they're all morons and idiots and tell them, this is why the earth is round. And you guys, what are you talking about? I mean, it's 2000, then it was 2014, the end of 2014, beginning of 2015. And well, I shut up real quick. It only took 1 or 2 videos for me. Um, the Chicago skyline, that's what did it for me. I'm from this area. I've seen that from Michigan City Lighthouse. My uncle had a boat in the marina when I was younger, and we'd go there every summer, every weekend. And I sat on that lighthouse and looked at the Chicago skyline with my own eyes, you know, 50 times, easy. And then for someone to come and say, "Well, that's not real. You didn't really see that." That's what really that's when I really started looking into it. I was like, "Wait a minute. No, 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 no. I know that wasn't a mirage. There's no way. I mean, it looked the same almost every night. It's just I never really took it into consideration that I shouldn't be able to see it. It's not something that they teach us. It's kind of one of those unspoken, the curve of the earth formula. I'd never had heard 8 inches per mile squared. In school, you figure, I don't know, if the earth was round, they could prove it so many different ways. And we just never were taught at such a young age. I don't know. I'm
We've
almost
got
ashamed.
Martin in the chat saying it's a mirage, and I'm going to detail this because there might be somebody who comes to this video and says, "What are they talking about?" So you've got, well, maybe I'll let you do it. So explain exactly to the audience what you said. You went to a lighthouse and you saw it each time. What precisely did you see?
Well, I didn't do it with the telescope when I was younger, but you could see the whole skyline. Like when you're sitting there looking at it, it's not like because I've done the math so many times and I've looked at all the building heights, and there's only 11 buildings. Well, 12. One should be 1 foot above the curve, and you're not going to see that. So there's only 11 tips of buildings that you should see, but you could see the whole skyline lit up. And unless there was a crowd of boats out there every night in the same exact spot, lighting up the horizon there, then that was the Chicago skyline. I mean, you could see almost all the buildings. And I'm sure there's some really small ones along the shore that you still can't see, but we're figuring that out, why we can't see those. That's coming along. But I
Well,
mean,
this is it though. This is what you are showing, in certain terms,
yeah.
because it's used as a debunking by globe heads. So they say, well, look, there's
Hmm.
the bottoms of these buildings are cut off, and therefore curvature. And when you get into the into the nitty gritty details of it, they'll say things like looming or inferior mirages and things like this. Whereas your experiment, well, again, I really want to steal your thunder because I'm excited, and you can probably tell. But tell us about the paint can experiment, the first one that I mirrored.
That one, I was trying to figure out a way to show that we can make things disappear on a flat surface. It finally hit me. Quit going out over water and doing it over long distances where they can say, well, it's just curved. That's why it's happening. So I wanted to find a long enough flat surface that I knew was flat to start experimenting with to see if I could get things to disappear. And gosh, it was probably, I don't know, 5 seconds after I had the idea, I went and I ran because I could take my camera with me everywhere, just in case. You never know what you're going to see in the sky, or I just always had it with me. And I ran out to my truck and grabbed it and brought it in, and we started. Me and another buddy there at work. He's all about the flat Earth. I mean, I don't hide this from everybody. Everybody knew what I was doing, and the funniest part is none of them think that I'm nuts. They, you know, how you'd say, "Oh, you can't go talk about this with everybody." I mean, everybody at work knows that. Well, this guy thinks that the Earth is flat, and he actually goes and does experiments, and I show everybody. But I started doing it, and it started working. At under 150 yards, you can make things disappear. And that's when I was like, okay, and I'm gonna do a lot more of these. There's gonna be plenty more of these because I mean, if you can't do something once and then say there, that's proof.
So how many feet between each step? Because you were backing away from two paint cans and you had lines. I think it was 11 lines, 0 to 10, on the A4 sheet of paper, and then two paint cans either side. And you said you were an inch off the ground. Were you on a little tripod or
About an
something?
inch and a half. I would set my camera actually right on the ground, and then the camera height is actually from the center of the lens is about an inch and a half,
And then
which
how far are you going back each time?
20 feet. I actually measured out the tape measure a string and then put a mark on the string every 20 feet. Not exactly perfect, but I mean for what we're doing, it's pretty close. And I know the building is only 170 yards maximum, so I think it's 153.3 yards is 460 feet, and I had a nice clear shot where there. So that's about. I did it at 460 just to even it out a little bit. But I mean, that's not very far. You look at some of these buildings that we have, and I mean, people could be doing this anywhere, really. There's a lot of big buildings out there. And now that I've been looking at this, there's so many that I would love to just go into and shut all the lights off and do experiments, and
But it wasn't
maybe
just
one of these days.
disappearing though, because you had in certainly that first video, and then again with the light, which we'll come on to. You had mirroring, then converging, then disappearing, and you could see
Yeah,
this effect sort of progressively coming on. And we've
gradually.
all
Yeah, that's what I
experienced
was
this. This
going
isn't
for.
this isn't like some amazing phenomenon that none of us have ever experienced in day-to-day life. We've all experienced it. It's just you're replicating it in small scale. And like you say, it is very small scale when you compare to a shot across to when you're photographing the Chicago skyline. That's vast distances, and you're talking, feet.
Oh yeah, that inch and a half. If that at 460 feet, that inch and a half would replicate, I think, 35 or 36 feet that you would be above the water level. Just that inch and a half, or no, the inch and a half would be 52 feet, I believe. So every inch is like 30 some odd feet in comparison, if that was the actual distance. So I've never taken a picture from, 50 feet up in the air. So I could never even get that perspective. There, the trolls. There's, oh, well, you can still only see it's 2 inches, and 2 inches only equals 70 feet, and there's usually this many feet, and blah. I was like, yeah, but I'm at an inch and a half off the ground, I'm, 50 feet up in the air. I'd be at the top of the lighthouse taking pictures or even up higher. I was like, they don't allow us up there. We don't get to go up there and take pictures. I'm 8 feet off the water, tops.
And again, because it's on the small scale, you can replicate a vast change in altitude just by picking up the camera. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
did at the end. And it was beautiful because you just completely debunked their arguments in terms of looking at, going up for the, looking over the curvature by raising an altitude. You're like, no, you've got a band that's blocking us because of distance and all the things we've just listed. And that disappears when you raise up. It's really simple.
It's so simple. I mean, it's elementary, really. I mean, we should have been taught this stuff in elementary school. Instead of having the globe there, they should have taught us how our eyes worked and just how everything works. It's not, it probably wouldn't be that complicated if we had been taught it our whole lives. Like, I've learned so much about the heliocentric system, which is, I mean, let's face it, Middle Earth or Harry Potter world or Neverland from Peter Pan. It's not real. It's all a made up fantasy world. And people have devoted their whole lives to this stuff. It's it's a shame, really. Think of how many amazing astrophysicists there are that, hold on, buddy, come on. Sorry, my dog. I have quite a few. But the astrophysicists that could have done something amazing or great or figured out something if they would have just been taught as a child the truth. That's what really upsets me about this whole thing.
Yeah, it's that moment in the Matrix where Morpheus says to Neo, "You've been living in a dream world." But what he's shown him when he takes him back into the Matrix is all of the things he's experienced all of his life. In other words, nothing's any different. And it's kind of the same with flat Earth. You find out that you've been deceived on a massive scale and that the Earth around you is not curving away from you at 8 inches per mile squared. It's in fact exactly as it appears, completely flat. But there's no change there. The only thing that changes is your cognition. So you are literally living in a dream world when you as a flat earther think back to when you were on a globe, because you weren't. We were never on a globe. It was always flat.
Oh, and the world is just not the physical part of it though, but everything changes when this happens, I think. I hope it does to everybody. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that are already there spiritually before they found this, but this really changed like every aspect of my life. I used to be into sports and had my favorite TV shows and I did things on certain nights always and this and that and we were talking earlier, I was in a nice groove. I was in my rut doing what I was supposed to do, another cog in the machine. And once this all came about, I mean, I still do my job and I still, do all that kind of stuff, but I'm no longer wasting my time on trying to be entertained for the rest of my life. Entertainment it's a very small, minute part of my life anymore. When it used to be, I thought the only thing left to do. Really, I mean, it's sad to say that, but I was content on just being entertained by other people and not actually going out and learning anything else. I thought after school and all that, I always kept learning, but I never really on like actually experimenting and knowing. There's a big difference between having someone tell you something and then going and actually doing it yourself and witnessing it. It's an amazing
It's
feeling.
back to what we get told as flat earthers, that we're being skeptical empiricists by wanting to actually experience things firsthand rather than take someone else's word for it.
Yeah, it's funny how this is all working and how it's very organic the way this has come about. And in one way that's a good thing, but I don't understand is why they're allowing it. It's the whoever you want to call them, the people in charge or the people who believe to be in charge, the illusion of power and all that. Um, I don't understand why they're allowing this to happen unless they're using it as a tool. That's the only thing I can see is they're getting ready to do something on a massive scale and they either want to know who the people are who I don't know. I'm not sure. There's so much speculation. I mean, these are psychopaths we're talking about, and to try and get into the mind of a psychopath is for a I don't want to call myself exactly normal, but I don't ever want to hurt people. I don't want to steal from people. I don't want to do that kind of stuff. I remember the last time I hit somebody in violence, I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I started crying because I felt so bad because I hurt them. Or I thought I hurt them. I didn't really hurt them. They were crying because I hit them and we were little kids. But I don't get any joy in, and it's hard to understand how someone could, and then to try to think like that person would. I can't. I don't know why they're doing what they're doing, but I believe they're doing it for a reason. This is being allowed. I mean, recommended. They could put in a few lines of code, and anybody that typed flat earth in, the thing would just be deleted. On YouTube or stuff like that. They could put a lid on this and not let it explode as much as it has. And that's the one thing that worries me is why are they doing this? They definitely, and then
it's hard
okay,
to answer. I was just going to say it's hard to answer because we know why they're deceiving us with the globe, and it's to control us. And what you described earlier about actually going out and experiencing life rather than what they want, which is you to have a few beers of a weekend and watch the sports game. That's what they want. But going out and experimenting, they definitely don't want that. So the idea of the control structure is to stop that from happening. And what's their end game? Well, they definitely don't want us to be ignoring them. They definitely want us to be paying attention to what they're telling us. In other words, all of the mainstream media is still globe media.
oh yeah,
It's still.
oh yeah.
So you're right. They could just put a lid on it, but I suspect that number one, we're not as big as some people would make out. So we are kind of the corner of the internet that is currently being ridiculed. Maybe they don't see it as any sort of threat. On the other hand, if you look at the stats, I've chatted to Mark Sargent about this. It is getting very big very quickly. It's tracking with a lot of mainstream topics. So, yeah, it's hard to know. But my answer would be, who cares what they're doing? Let's turn our backs on them.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Really, it doesn't matter what they're doing. It matters what we're going to do and what we're doing.
You said you came to this through Crow. Now, Crow's really interesting because he is a flat earther. He'll hate me saying that because he hates being defined as a quote-unquote flat earther because that's a particular breed of person. And that breed of person has very little to do with the shape of the earth, unfortunately. That's a sort of a social category almost now. But he's more interested in the heavens, the sky. But when pushed, I can't remember who sent me a link to it, but he said if he was to categorize the shape of the earth, he would describe it as a planet, and then he'd just remove the T. In other words, a plane. It's a kind of a fussier way of saying he's a flat earther without saying that he wants to associate with the ridiculed community, which is what we are. We are constantly propping ourselves up against trolls, which is kind of where I was leading this. So how have you found that? Because you're putting out some pretty hard-hitting stuff. Have you been trolled to all hell?
Well, actually, I had a lot of dealings with the trolls early on before I ever made a video. I was a avid arguer. And the thing about me is when I argue with them, they would tell me something and they'd even put a link to it. And 90% of the people don't even click on the link. They just, tuck their tail and, oh, well, this person has a link, so they must know something. I go and read the link and see that what they were telling me was a lie. Or not at all what they were thinking. It's like, well, this actually works even better if the earth were flat and everything else is moving around us. So this doesn't prove your point. And I learned so much from arguing with trolls. That's why I love that they're there for people who actually do research. For the people who just take people's word for it, they're horrible.
Couldn't echo that more. So the people who moan about trolls, I've said this a few times, the not necessarily Spaceman, but certainly the Sly Sparkanes and the Gerard Fensons and those guys, like you say, oh, thank you so much for all your pre-done research. All there for me to check at my leisure, no time searching. Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I learned so much. And the craziest part is that you'll see them in the, well, it's not really crazy because they are trolls and they're, but you can explain something to them and give them the actual science, that what science actually says, tells them, because they'll be way off base on some of those things. And then you'll see them in another comment section on another video with the same exact argument, arguing it with somebody else. And they are here to waste our time. That's, I think, the main goal, or to steer people off in the wrong direction and make it sound like everybody that's talking about this is insane. But I mean, this isn't for everybody. This is the litmus test. This is, if you're a true researcher and someone who wants to know the truth, and you're willing to go, and this is the test. If you can't look into this and at least prove it wrong in your own mind, then you're not looking for the truth. And there's some things that we can't prove.
Absolutely.
You
But certain
know,
things we can, based on
yeah,
experimentation, which brings me onto
that's
your torch experiment. So can you talk us through what you did, or how you came to the idea? What sort of gave you the inclination to pop a torch on the same
it was
playing field?
it was actually a fellow YouTuber, Taboo Conspiracy, gave me the idea. He's always been giving me great ideas for different experiments to do and stuff like that. And that's why I put the videos out there, really. Not I do want to share what I find, but what I really want is input on how to make the experiments better. If I could just do 10 or 15, maybe 20 years of experimenting and then put out the greatest of my experiments, that would be fine with me. But being able to put them out like this as I'm doing them, they wouldn't be nearly as good if it wasn't for the commenters on YouTube. Really, I mean, they've given me so many great ideas on how to make everything better. Um, that's pretty much why I do it.
But it's something that people who are listening should definitely take heed, because correct me if I'm wrong, you said that you just had the idea, went to your truck, got your camera, and just did it. So in other words, probably 5 minutes between you having the idea and you doing it elapsed, and then you've got it in the can.
That's the best way to do it, is when inspiration hits, I mean, you run with it. You have to. You don't want to you don't want to forget things. And the way they have the system set up, it's made for us to forget things. I mean, I wake up all the time and I'll remember my dream, and then 10 minutes later, I can't recall it. Or at work, well, I get bothered a lot at work. Um, my name is a four-letter word to me at work, Z-A-C-K. I mean, I hate hearing my name. We have buzzers and bells, and people just ignore them. They wait for me to walk by, and they'll come grab me to fix stuff. But I just lost my train of thought right there. Oh yeah, like that. I mean, you can get on another thought like that. So when you have the chance and inspiration hits, or at least write it down. That's another.
Yeah,
I've never
seize
kept a
the moment,
journal.
basically. Seize the moment.
Yeah, carpe diem. I mean, if you're gonna do it, you have to do it.
Well, it's a good
There's
job,
no sense
certainly with
in.
the torch experiments, because you kind of lucked out with some of the humidity levels, and you said the fans were off in the warehouse. Can you
Hmm.
talk us through the torch experiments a little bit?
Yeah, but I pretty much I just set a flashlight down and where I had set the lids before, and I had done it twice. The first time I did it, for some reason, I thought I had to put the torch above the camera eye. And I mean, in reality, everything goes to our vanishing point right on the horizon. So I don't know what I was thinking. But the second one, um, a couple YouTube commenters said, "Why'd you raise it? Go ahead and put it down on the ground. That's how we would see it normally." Or eventually, it would sink in with the horizon. And as soon as I did that, I got it to disappear totally. In under, now I'm sure that the atmosphere had something to do with it, but I had a good 120 feet left to go. And you could see in that video, I had to go and make another little thing, record myself, how happy I was because I got that light to totally disappear. It's,
Did,
it's
didn't the
solidified.
At the
Go
end,
ahead.
if I'm right, I'm going from memory now because I didn't watch it today. Didn't the like exposure levels completely change beyond there? So it like suddenly you could see all of the backgrounds because it suddenly
Oh
got
yeah,
very,
the
very bright.
background, the light was gone. Like now, if I stood up, I could see it fine, but from that low, I believe it has something to do with the two images, the mirroring effect, converging that high up right there to where. And the neatest part was it actually did it like we see the sunset from the bottom up. It wasn't like all of a sudden the light was dissipating from both sides or anything. It did it just from the bottom up. Now I have an idea that if we were doing this from the side view and you had a 150-yard long wall and you could put the light on the wall and back away, that we would actually see it disappear from this side. I think that's how perspective works. It it all determines how close you are to whichever side of the four squares you're looking at. If you're all the way up to the top of a ceiling, you can make things on the ceiling disappear. If you know, and vice versa with all directions. I think I'm still not 100% sure on that, but it's how it's making sense in my head. It has
So
to do
what?
with the angle at which our eyes can see things. Once it, I'm not sure how to word this.
Well, you don't
It
need to because you're lucky in the respect that what you're trying to describe has already been reverse engineered by the powers that should not be, and then put into calculations to deceive us about curvature. So I understand what you're saying. It's hard to phrase it because you're trying to describe something that you're witnessing, and you can't describe each and every photograph. You'd need 10,000 words. It would be here all night. But I kind of get what you're saying. But maybe I'll phrase that as a question. Do you think that what you're witnessing with your camera has been engineered to deceive us with curvature?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that is the supposed curvature right there is just how our eyes work. They I think the ancient Greeks knew this stuff. I think that's when it all started with the whole Pythagoras and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they set up this system, and it might not have been them. It may have been people before them, but the system was set up on how our eyes actually work and how I don't know, it's amazing. And I mean, they've had 2,000 years to get it down. And you got to think only a couple hundred years ago, the sun was, well, not even, I think the sun was 120 million miles away. It started off at 3 million miles and then went up to 33 million. And then, so throughout history, it's going to change again. Even in their model, I have pretty good faith that they're going to have to change the distance of the sun. And all the people who believe that everything they say is gospel now, in 50 years or 100 years or whenever it happens, if this is still going on, hopefully not. Hopefully the earth will be known flat by then. But if it is still going on, then they will have to change and adapt, and because their model has so many holes in it. The heliocentric model is, I understand why they don't teach it, actually teach it. My little brother took an astronomy class in college, and he said they looked at the stars, I think, one night, and then the rest was just all memorizing, book learning, no observational anything. And how do you learn about something if you don't look at it and observe it? I mean, in their model, everything should be changing all the time. You can't say, well, everything's just known and learned. In their model, they should be teaching people to be looking for alterations every minute, and they don't. They don't even want you to look up there. It's
But they do show a certain amount of stuff. Obviously, it's mostly CGI based and touched
Yeah,
in.
no, I'm not talking about things you see on a TV screen. I'm talking about looking through a telescope made with lenses and no no computer graphic anything allowed. But looking through a big lens telescope, he did that one time. They only did it one time. And he said it was neat, it was really neat, but they didn't he thought it was going to be a lot of that. And they don't want you looking. They don't. And if they do want you looking, like you said, they want you looking through their computer monitors or their screens to see what they want to show you. They don't want you using your eyes.
Well, this is exactly how I got in touch with you. So Dayli, Ohio, who I think is probably about 40 or 50 miles away from you, was the person that got in touch to say, oh, I know that guy, when I was putting out an appeal to find out who'd made the video with the paint cans. And he and indeed Crow 777 and Take Back Space CD, these are the people who are
Mm.
actually broadcasting what I would consider to be better quality than I got through my telescope. Now, that's not to say that the mystique that you got when you look through your own lens at the sky, and you finally get that magical moment, and you can see the rings of Saturn or whatever you're looking at. That magic isn't there. But in terms of the actual picture quality, yeah, it's right up there. Especially
Oh yeah.
it's amazing, and you can literally, although it's on TV, technically speaking, you can go and have a look at this stuff for yourself because there's people out there going to the effort of actually broadcasting it for you, and they're good at it. They know how to use their equipment much better than I ever could with my scope, so they can do this stuff in seconds, and you can really have a good look at what they've shown you versus what's actually up there, especially with things like Jupiter, with all its nonsense that's crowned atop it at the moment. But this is the stuff that people are showing you through their lenses, and it's just being pretty much put straight on the screen as you would see it through the lens. But what you're doing is different, though. Small scale experiments compared to looking through telescopes is to me, it's a lot more magical. And I hope you didn't take offense when I did the promo for this. I said it was cheap, and by that I kind of
No,
mean,
no, that's what I'm going for. That's exactly what I want to try to find things that anybody can do. And yeah, I did. I went and bought a nice camera, but you don't need a great
what
camera to
camera
do
did you
this.
get? I thought it was a Nikon. Am
Um,
I wrong?
yeah, it's a Nikon. I didn't get the P900. This one is almost a pound lighter, and it was about $250 cheaper. And it has all the same gizmos and gadgets. It has all the whistles and bells. It just doesn't have the 83 by zoom. It has a 60 by zoom, which was still adequate enough for me to do what I wanted to do. And I'm happy with it. I mean, I definitely would like a P900 eventually or the next step up. But what really did it for me was the weight. I I've heard a lot of photographers say you have to take weight into account a lot if you're going to be taking a lot of pictures. And in the first, I think, 8 months, I took over 5,000 pictures of. I went crazy at because this camera, it's neat. I mean, not to get off topic too much, but it's like a microscope and a telescope. I could see the moons of Jupiter, and the moons were almost the whole size of my monitor. And then I could see the hairs on a fly's leg when zoomed in, and it's really, I mean, I want to get one for my niece and nephew when they get a little bit older and more responsible, just so they can. It's like looking through the world through different eyes. It is seeing makes it more intimate.
Well, this is quite interesting because it brings us on to a side subject I didn't think we'd get to, but why not? If we've reached it with a tangent, we've got CERN, who are looking at the microscopic, and you're describing the comparison between the macroscopic and the microscopic through your very own lens. But of course, we're deceived with lenses looking up at the sky, with the Lucifer scope, with Hubble, with all of these different things, Sophia. The list goes on and on and on. But at the moment, I see the direction of the new lie. We speculated earlier, not too much, about where this may be going. But who's telling the latest lies, and where's the word of God coming from at the moment? Well, it's coming from CERN. That's where it's coming from. And what are they looking at? Well, they're looking at the microscopic. They're looking at things that, unlike Saturn, which is obviously way out of our reach and capabilities of looking at in the detail that NASA can, well, CERN are looking at stuff that's way out of the capabilities and abilities of us to look at with our mere equipment. They've got these ginormous cameras to find God.
Oh, yeah, CERN is. Oh man, I have no idea what they're really doing out there, but and I don't know if any of the pictures, all the pictures I saw are legitimate, but there is some weird stuff going on there it's beyond science. It gets into the realm of esoteric and what I don't know what they're doing. They're getting into some crazy old books that I don't even think they understand. I really don't think they know what they're doing. And as far as looking for the God particle and this and that, I think that's just all the what they put out, what they publish. I don't believe anything that comes scientifically from I mean, they've been lying to us for hundreds of years, thousands of years. And this is just like the whole LIGO system and all that. I mean, these are, like you said, things that we could not possibly even attempt to do ourselves. A normal person couldn't build a CERN size reactor. It's just, there's no way. It's not going to happen. The whole LIGO, I mean, 2 mile tubes and this. And once I heard how they say that thing worked, it's a joke. I mean, are they serious? When you go and research some of this stuff, you have to have more faith than you do to be a religious person. I mean, any religion, all the leaps of faith that, are required to believe mainstream science, to actually, because most people don't even know what they say or most people don't care. As long as their phone works and their television works and, the car starts when they turn the key, they're happy. Science is beyond their reach, or, well, they think, because that's what they want us to think. But I mean, science is not as complicated as they make it. I mean, yeah, when you get into surgery and things like that, I would want somebody who was a little more, educated, I'm sure, and well practiced than somebody who's never done it before, of course. But there's a lot of science out there that anyone can do. It's They make it seem like it's untouchable for like someone like me that goes to work to come home and actually do experiments. It's I've never thought that I could do stuff like that before. I don't know why. I always thought it would be too expensive. Like all the equipment and everything you had to have the best of everything. Then I realized I could take wheelchairs and, duct tape. Duct tape is great. I love duct tape. It holds stuff everywhere. I mean, you don't have to have the best equipment and the best things to be a scientist. You don't. And you don't have to have a lab coat or a PhD or any of this stuff. You just have to want to learn the truth and be willing to go out there and test it. And that's what science is, testing what they tell us is true. And you don't try to
That,
prove something correct ever.
that
You never try
illusion,
to
though,
prove something.
that illusion's
Yeah,
definitely been created by very, very, very expensive machines. I mean, I've got a bit of ISS flyby at the moment, which is on my desktop, classed as pictures from space in 4K. That's what they call it. Complete rubbish. But what we're being shown is very, very expensive machines. Same goes for CERN. And like you say, it creates the impression that unless you can, do it in the case of CERN, do a dance to Shiva, do a lot of esoteric rituals, and then maybe if you've got time, present a picture of some dots and lines. But that's what they do at CERN. But with some extremely expensive equipment, which creates the impression for you and I that no, there's no way we're going to ever figure out anything about Earth because I can't do what's on screen now. I can't get up to those sorts of heights in my rocket that I don't have. So what's the point in even trying? They've already figured it out anyway. And look, they're giving us all the information, just charging us to get it with our TV rates and such. But ultimately speaking, the answers are already found out. And we discussed this just before we went live, the childlike wonder that you get from not knowing things. And this leads me into, the conversation we had about the sun, which is to say that, well, again, I won't steal your thunder. What would you say you have discovered or not discovered about the sun since doing that experiment?
that if this, I, on a flat plane, the sun can still set. Just plain and simple. I don't want to hear the argument anymore that the whole Earth would be lit because this and that and yada yada yada. I mean, light does not go on forever. Light gets blocked out by air molecules, even. I mean, I don't know if you were as high as the sun, if you could see it forever. I don't want to go as far as saying that. I don't even know if the sun is an actual object that I don't I don't believe the sun is an actual object that we're seeing. I believe it's a reflection off something, but that's something else. But yeah, the thing we call the sun, that light in the sky, it'll set on a flat plane just like it would have on a curve. Actually, I don't know how it would set on a curve. I've never seen that. I'd be interested to see, to actually live on a ball and see what it would look like, if it would look the same or not. I had a dream about that the other night. I wanted to actually, like, I think they were, I don't know, it's kind of fuzzy, but I think they were offering me to go fly to a place that was a big giant sphere to let me see what it would be like to live on a sphere and how different it would be from what we actually see here in reality. Oh, wow, that
This,
was
this,
weird.
this was
You ever
this,
have
this was
those?
something else. This was something else we talked about before the show, which we were talking about the different durations of light in the different hemispheres. You have to excuse my terminology, but yeah, again based on what I keep wanting to steal your thunder because your information's so good. I have to calm down and try and phrase the questions a bit more leading. So you've heard my preamble, and you know where I'm going. I'll just shut up.
Well, it's actually I lost my, go ahead. Go ahead. I lost my
Well,
train of
I was
thought.
trying to say about the fact that they say that the sun's traveling at different speeds. Now, you've kind of
Oh,
already
okay.
by saying that you don't think that the sun, like they describe in the heliocentric model, is some burning ball of fire 97 million miles away, or however many they decide this decade. So yeah, it's not a physical object. I mean, I'll preface this by saying, in reality, I have no idea what the sun is. I know from you from before we started, you have no
Oh
idea what the
yeah,
sun is.
there's, how could you? How could anybody really? I mean, there's, we don't have a perspective to see what the sun is. We don't get that viewpoint to actually look at this, and it's always above us, shining down. I don't know how to. I almost want to think that the sun is very, very, very far away. And I know a lot of people don't like to think that there's a dome or this and that, and that's going to be some of the experiments I'm going to be doing here pretty soon. I'm going to try to make a rainbow without a piece of glass inside, with two different streams of water, because that might be able to do it. I know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have to do experiments, but the sun is, it's definitely not whatever's creating the light source, we don't see it, in my opinion. Now I'm just saying that as I studied it for about a year last year. I mean, I went and bought a sextant and I measured it, and I was actually checking the US Naval Observatory's records to see if they were telling the truth. And they were right on. There was a couple days where the sun will actually be off. I think it was three different occasions. One time I didn't triple check, so I'm not sure about that one. But the other two, the sun was off over 2 degrees, just at a certain time in the day. And then I went in the afternoon and it was right where it was supposed to be. So things in the sky, they can appear to be well off from where they actually are.
Can you give
That's,
that a bit more detail? I'm kind of following what you say, but can you
yeah, here, I
explain
actually
exactly?
have, I'll even bring out the date for you and everything. I have it written down here. Sorry about this. Okay, nope, that was a spot up here. And oh, where's it at? I know I marked them.
That's
Okay,
okay.
here's one.
While you're having a look, I'll shout out a few people in chat. So I got YouTube, Mr. Cash Cashiers, how you doing? Turquoise Dragon, Jibby Jedi, Flatina, pleased to see you. Some Patricia Steer going by. Jerry, I'm not even going to pronounce that surname. How you doing, Jerry? Lewis Grindle, pretty much pronounce that one, no problem. A few of them have flown by. How you doing? Have you managed to dig it out, or shall I keep shouting them
Yeah,
out?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I
you
have it.
found it.
You can
Brilliant.
you can keep going if you want. I'm
Oh yeah,
no
I
rush.
can keep going indefinitely. Jimbo, how you doing? Pleased to see you. Ricardo, hi Nathan. He says, yeah, hi, how you doing? Earth Discernant, is that right? I'm looking at my screen from about 4 feet, so I can just about make them all out. Gem Buzz, I assume that's Jeremy. Gurr. Now, Gurr is an interesting character. He joined the first two sun tracking events to show us the 24-hour sun from his location. How you doing, Gurr? Pleased to see you here. Kanda, very pleased to see you. Who else we got? I said, Wake the Sheeple. Pleased to see you, Michael. How you doing? Chris Rock, pleased to see you, former guest. Chris. Who else we got? George Smith. I think we're pretty much at the bottom now. Pleased to see you all. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for giving me 1 million views. Really pleased. Thank you. Thank you. I think I've done enough filler there. How are we doing?
All righty. Let's see. Tuesday, September 20th. This was last year, 2016. In the morning at 10:28, I measured it at 42 degrees, and the actual was supposed to be 40 degrees. Now, 2 degrees is actually the size of 4 suns. That would be the sun, because the sun is about a half a degree in the sky usually. It changes size a little bit. It gets a little bit bigger as it heads south. But, I mean, that's a large distance, 2 degrees, when you're talking about the actual sky. And I triple checked it, and then I went back, and that was in the morning. I went back at 12:51 CDT, and it was 49 degrees, just like I got pretty good with the sextant. I could get it to within about half a degree. And to have them off by 2 degrees like that, it also happened, when was the other one? Wednesday, October 5th of 2016. It was off in the afternoon at 15:32 my time. Supposed to be 28 degrees, and I got it at 30 degrees. And all the other ones are within half a degree everywhere. 43, 43, 28, 28. I mean, they were really right on the U.S. Naval Observatory. But the thing I really thought was really interesting about it is that the sun is in the exact same place. Like I know March 20th because it's around the equinox. It's been the equinox the last couple of years. 12:55, the sun will be directly due south of North Judson, Indiana, where I live. Every year for 70 years at the exact same time. Every minute. Now, how that could be, that's not random at all. That's a clock. I mean, that is a perfect clock system. So I went through and marked every 5 days. I have it on paper. I have a bunch of copies of it for where the sun should be every few days from my point here in northern Indiana. And that's what my sun experiment, the 2 sticks in the ground, is all about. And the sun does not, it's a better clock than you could ever get on your wrist or on your phone. I mean, it doesn't lose a second, year after year. And this is the U.S. Naval Observatory. I went back to 1970. And then if you go forward, what did I go to? 2040. And every year is just the exact same. They don't even, it's that predictable. Now, to say that with Jupiter pulling on us and Saturn and Mars and all these other gravitational things that are supposedly happening that we can actually, they say they can feel and this and that, we don't get pulled by anything else. We're never slowed down or this or that. The sun ends up in the exact same spot. And it's weird. It even happens on leap year. So I think that's why we're known as having a solar calendar. You know, the Gregorian calendar was set up to follow the sun. The old calendars were more based on the moon. They were lunar calendars. And I never realized that when they said, oh, this is a solar calendar, what they actually meant until I actually did the research. And I mean, they have the sun pegged down to the minute. It's amazing. And they have to change a second here and there. I think they've done it 24 times in the last 37 years. But that could be the clocks. That could be our amount of time, maybe off a little bit. You know, a second might not be the right amount of time. It could be 1.005432 whatever seconds is actually the perfect amount of time to break it all down. Because we're still not right on. I broke it down to...
It's been hijacked, and I suspect it's been hijacked to ruin our rhythms. We started by asking about your waking patterns, and at the moment, I don't know about how light it is at the mornings for you, but at 5 a.m. I would imagine that's sunrise, correct?
Yeah, well, the sun isn't quite up yet, but I can definitely see the sunlight. we get sunlight for about an hour before the sun actually comes up over the horizon, even peaks up over it here. But like I said, I'm in a valley. I have two big, and it's not like not a valley you can witness or see. It's 30 miles away is, 200, 300 feet up. And again, on the other way, it's 200, 300 feet up, but that's far off in the distance. It looks flat. Even when you're driving it, it feels flat. Going 100 feet up or down, you really don't notice it going down the highway over 20, 30 miles. That's only 5 feet a mile. That's nothing. I mean, you really don't notice it when it's happening. But
Yeah,
I
you
think
say
that
that.
has,
You remind me of what Shaq said, and he was saying he'd driven across the country and it was all flat, and there was loads of flat earthers who gave him loads of stick. I don't know if you caught this for his proof, and I thought, what's wrong with that? Literally, he's driving around. He should be driving across a curved surface. He's driving across a flat surface, and he's experiencing it with his own senses. And yes, he recanted, but ultimately speaking, I was like, "What's wrong with that?" That's how we experience life. To say that you've taken your own experience into account and have that ridiculed, it's just
yeah.
like that's unbelievable.
Well, they say even though I know the whole Iowa is flat as a pancake thing, but they did a thing on the whole United States, I believe, even, and it is still pretty flat, even with the Rocky Mountain, the Smokies that are, they're not huge, but they're nice mountains, I guess.
Yeah, I think they
It's
said it was
still
flatter comparatively
flat.
speaking than a pancake.
Yeah, yeah. Even
Flatter.
the whole United States. So him saying I drive across it and it looks flat, he's not lying. I mean, it is, the United States is flat. It is flat as a pancake. And that would be you don't see that in their shots from space. I hate bringing up NASA. I don't even like giving them credit to even say their names anymore. I wish we could just turn them off, really. The $20 billion a year, that's my pet peeve. When people say, "Oh, NASA this, NASA that," I was like, was it worth $50 million today for them to grow lettuce up in space for the 15th time and put it out in a news article like it was some great achievement that they $50 million a day? That that gets me. Being
I think it's just gone up
someone
actually.
who,
I think it's 54 million now.
oh man, oh jeez, that's
It does. I
what I,
mean, I'm
oh man,
laughing, but it is. It's an outrage.
oh,
But then,
it
as a
is.
flat
It just,
earther, you've probably looked at other things like the money system as well. Maybe not as a consequence, or maybe as a consequence of flat Earth. There's lots of other things that your eyes are open to that you go. The whole money system's designed to just keep us impoverished. It's designed to
oh
keep
yeah,
us, you know,
money's a joke. Money
yeah.
is, it's not even worth the paper that it's printed on. I mean, I could at least burn that paper to keep warm, but money is, it's a way to keep you a slave. That's all it is. There's no value, there's no intrinsic value to it. I when I found this out probably about 5, 6 years ago, that's when I had my big screen TV and all my stuff and all my, I had all the gizmos and gadgets and bells, and I gave all that stuff away and I started learning how to live off the land. I wanted to be able to go out into the woods if I had to. Like I said, I was big on the Elenin, Nibiru, and all that. And then I did get into the whole big government thing. I was a big Alex Jones guy for a couple of years there. And I wanted to learn how to be able to just pick up my bag, go out in the woods, and live. And it's possible. It is. Any time of year. I mean, it's not going to be fun. You're not going to, it's not going to be enjoyable. You may not be comfortable as you would in your heated home with all that good stuff, but it's very possible.
So
And I think that's something that,
would you class yourself as a prepper then at some stage?
oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I have my bug out bag sitting right over here. I have my personal one for just me to go out for about a month, and then I have the big bag next to it for a group of at least 5 to maybe 7 people that could live off of it for a month with water filtration and some of the, it's more medical and ways to stay clean. The food is out there. I mean, with a little bit of knowledge, the food is there. I mean, you don't even need guns or bow and arrows, or the food's there. You get a fish or a hook with a string, and you catch a worm or a cricket or something. You tie it to a tree limb and you throw it out there, and you come back a few hours later and you have a fish. You don't have to stand there. And I used to be a big avid fisherman. I was always, catch and release. I'm not hurting them. And then I let my conscience get to me. It's like, this is hurting these fish. I mean, I don't care what people say. Oh, they don't have anything in their lips. They can't feel it. When I just don't. I felt bad. I mean, I always felt bad, but it was the manly thing to do. I wanted to be like the rest of the guys. And I actually, fishing became like a way for me to relax, to get out there. I used to go fishing with my buddies. And then once I moved out to the country, because I grew up in the city, once I learned about everything that was happening, I moved out to the country away from all the big cities and stuff, and fishing became like I don't want to say my religion, but I did it almost every day. And I'd throw lures out there without even hooks on them, just to be out there, just to go out there and, I'd get a fish to hit it, and I know I could catch that fish if I really needed to. And then I quit doing that. I just was like, okay, I'm done fishing. I gave all my fishing gear away.
You just reminded me of, sorry, I'm going to interrupt because it's just funny. So you just reminded me of a Red Dwarf skit. So he's explaining the same thing to the android character, the Dave Lister character. And he says, oh yeah, we used to go fishing just to pass the time. And the android doesn't get it. And he's like, well, where did you go fishing? And he said, well, we used to go to the canal. No fish in there. He's like, well, what was the point? He says, well, we used to go condom fishing. He says, one time I caught this 10-pound black ribbed nobbler.
But yeah, then I learned I can go out there with just a camera. It's the same thing. I love being around nature now. The last 5 years, once I've woken up, I have 4 gardens now. I started one 5 years ago, and then I've added one on every year. This year I didn't add one on because 4 gardens is more than enough. I don't even have time to take care of them, but I mean, I love being outside. And I was never like this. 5 years ago, when I was well indoctrinated, I was happy in my little cube with my TV and my Xbox, and as long as I had my internet oh man, I wasted so much time that I could have spent. But you can't look back, and because I'm sure I did learn things while I was doing nothing. We're always learning if you're paying attention, but I could have just done so much more with all that time. But it is what it is, and I'm making up for it now.
Well, what are you
a big health nut.
You mentioned about doing your experiment with the bending with the water and potentially looking at the dome. Have you got anything else planned for the future?
I'm still trying to. Rob Durham did so much with the gyroscope, as did Bob from Globebusters. He did that great one showing that it can. I don't know what to do with my gyro. I want to do something. I mean, I've proven it to myself and family members and stuff, and I really just wanted to feel the force that the gyroscope did, the force that it created. But I'm going to do that when I've told people I was going to do that. I really want to. I'm working on a setup at work where I can actually strap it down and manipulate it all kinds of ways, and that's a work in progress. I'm going to make the sun set just like it does in reality. I'm working on instead of me taking the camera and moving it back, I'm going to hook the light to something and then have my buddy drag it away slowly, just like a setting sun would be, so we can actually see it. And I'll do it on video. I can't put video on my phone, so I'm going to I'll go use somebody's computer to upload that one, but I really want to show the sun setting like we actually see it. I might even put a little row of trees in there. Or
I will plug a Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole video here, which you may or may not have seen, which is where he did that. He tried to replicate it on his worktop counter, and he had bottles set up and things as trees.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so good that some of the commenters, because he had this it was like a long stick with a ball on the end, some sort of torch with a ball, but it looked like a sun. but some people actually thought his torch was the sun. He got it so good. So have a look. I'll even put a link in the description for this video, along with links to Good Times for All, Zach's channel. But yeah, you especially, Zach, check that out, because it's, if you're going to try and replicate it again, it's worth seeing how David Weiss got on doing it.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one. I think he did it twice actually. He made two separate videos about that one. I follow David, and then Rob Skiba's video where he did it with the lens paper in there. That was genius. That was one of the things that inspired me to do this, but in reality, without. I wanted to do it without the lens paper, because the trolls, they will, you know how they work.
I love how when Rob does it, you can call him genius, because you've been really humble. You're a really, really humble guy. And I said before, I was like, what do you mean it's simple? What do you mean? You can't downplay that. This is amazing. You know, I really want to pick up. Simplicity is really difficult to achieve, to illustrate something. For once you've got your camera, this is what I said in the promo, it costs nothing to do that experiment. You've already got the camera. You know, what sheet of paper was the overall cost? You know, it's pennies to actually do some of these experiments. But to achieve that, when you're up against Globehead saying that you need to go through the experience of intercontinental travel, time lapses, putting star trails into computers, it just boggles the mind what they expect you to do. Climb a mountain with a theodolite. You're like, what?
Yeah.
I want to do something in my lounge.
My favorite is, go 10,000 miles and then make a 90-degree turn, and go 10,000 more miles and make a 90-degree turn and go 10,000 more, and you'll end up right where you started. It's like, yeah, I'll just go out my front door and I'll start that right now. You know, anybody can just walk 10,000 miles, you know. Their arguments are so ridiculous and so. I had one guy offer me $1,000 to go to Antarctica and or prove that the midnight sun didn't exist. It was like, really, you're going to give me $1,000 to do something that's going to cost me at least 15 to 20 probably. I was like, you're kidding, right? It's like offer me $100 to drive across the United States. No, I'm not going to waste my time or my money or my effort to prove to you. I don't know. I try not to even feed the trolls anymore. There's a couple of them that when I see, I can't help it. There's a couple of them. They know who they are. I'm sure they're not watching this, but they know who they are. They've actually blocked me, so I can't see their posts. I don't know if that works, but yeah, I can't even click onto their page. I can't bring up their page. When I type in their name, it doesn't even show up as a YouTube channel.
Oh right. So have you harassed them?
Oh yeah, I was a troll hunter there for a while. As soon as I'd see them, because like I said, it was the same exact argument. Because I would go and tell people, you know, this is a troll, blah, 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 blah. And, I don't even want to say his name, but my favorite one, he put his whole life out on the internet, you know. And then he used his real name and everything, and I went and found his homepage, and he wrote books about his family and put it out there and this and that. I never really mentioned too much about it. I never said anything about his family, except that he never worked and he lived off of his wife and this and that. He's the one who really, I think he even started his own other YouTube channel after that. I'm not a mean person. I try not to be, but when people are lying and deceiving people on purpose over and over and over, and this was after probably a year of not even arguing with these people, just warning other people that these people are not genuine and legitimate. Then I was like, okay, this guy is a know-nothing, doesn't work, claims to be a writer. He has 2 books on Amazon that have like 2 copies sold that are probably family members. He even wrote a flat earth book. I'll say that much. He wrote a book disproving the flat earth. And I think it has 5 or 6 sales on Amazon, something like that. But yeah, he said he was going to sue me for slander and all this other stuff. And I was like, okay, go ahead. Because everything that I've said, I read off of the stuff you put out on the internet. I was like, you can't put out your whole life on the internet and then go and start doing stuff like trolling. That's stupid. With your own name. I was like, didn't they teach you anything in trolling school? Like, you don't you don't even use your own name or your own picture. So he changed. He doesn't have his own picture anymore. I think he still uses his name on his page. I don't know. They're fun though. It's when you're bored at work and I don't have, I can't experiment. I'll argue with a troll all day just to waste their
I
time.
can't believe how much of a man after my own heart you are. I mean, I'm in the chat
Oh
going,
yeah,
this guy. This guy's great. Just amazing.
yeah.
Anti-troll troll hunter, you're a flat earth experimenter, really nice guy, really humble. So come on, what's the dark side? What's your issue?
Oh, um, I like to play video games. That's probably
Ah,
my
that's
biggest
great.
downfall. I'll put in 3 or 4 hours a week. Usually it'll be Monday morning after my long weekend. I'll play like 2 or 3 hours or something. Just, but yeah, I've been trying and trying and trying to quit. It's better than my 5 hours a day I used to do, you know,
No, there's a
but
few
I
there's a
can't.
few gamers in the flat Earth community. You talk of Antarctica, Doomweaver 2007. That's his gaming name. And that's Robert Shortman, who's been to the Antarctica for 12 months solid. So there's a few
Really?
gamers out there. Definitely, definitely. But yeah, is
Yeah,
there
but
anything
that's
you want to
my,
plug before we round out? It's been about an hour, so it may round up
um,
about an hour.
one of the guys that really got me started, BMLSB69. He did a lot of great P900. He's the one who got me started. He's the one who talked me into getting my camera. He's the one who came up with the idea of doing experiments with the sun and measuring sunspot rotation. Um,
What was his
yeah,
name
I'd
again?
like
Can
to
you say that again?
BMLSB, like B as in boy with MLS soccer, and then a B at the end, and then 6'9". Yeah, I give him a lot of the credit because without him, I probably wouldn't even have started making videos. I mean, it was in my mind already. I wanted to just because of the topic and how important it is. But he pushed me over the edge and got me started. So yeah, I'll plug him, BMLSB69. If you haven't checked him out, he's got a pretty small channel still, but the videos he's done, everybody's used him. He's the guy who goes out in California and does the oil rigs at different sizes and whatnot. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, go and check out his channel. He's awesome. Doesn't do a whole lot of videos, but when he does, it's eye-opening, jaw-dropping stuff.
Very good, very good. And I'll also give you a good plug. So make sure if you're watching this on the re-upload that you do click on the link that I'll put below to Good
Oh,
Times
yeah,
Squirrel's
absolutely.
channel. Make sure you subscribe and like to his videos as and when they come out. It's been a real pleasure. I mean, a real,
You too,
real pleasure
Nathan.
having you,
Yeah,
Zach.
this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me so much.
You've even had a bit of a superstar flat earther in the chat. So he had Russian vids in the chat, watching going by, chatting away with
Oh,
all of the
cool.
viewers.
Yeah, Russian vids, man. I've been watching your stuff for years. The stuff that you seem like an honest guy to me. I mean, everything he says sounds like I've never got that feeling. Like when I'm sorry for stretching it, but when I used to watch Alex Jones, you could tell that he's lying. You can just see it. Because I used to actually watch the YouTube videos and you can see a liar. It's not hard. You just listen to your gut. And I don't, when Russian Vids is speaking, you can't, that guy's awesome. Yeah, shout out Russian Vids. Awesome, man. The stuff you do, thank you so much. But Nathan, again, thanks so much, man, for having me. This has been a lot of fun. I was real nervous. I don't know why. You're an awesome guy, but I appreciate it a lot.
The pleasure was all mine. And with that, I will say another massive thank you to everybody who has joined us in the live audience. It's been
Yeah, thanks,
really
guys.
wonderful having you. I've been Nathan Oakley. I'll see you all in the next video.